Huge ass weapons ripping through monster hides, incredible 4-player co-op with friends, gear optimization up the wazoo, and cats that cook so well they put Gordon Ramsay out of business. Just some of the ingredients, yes, that was a food pun, that make Monster Hunter Wilds one of the most anticipated games of 2025. But how did this once niche series that was known as a handheld game for a long time become a Japanese juggernaut? What's good, PC gamers? I'm Midas. To see Monster Hunter rise from a Jagras to a giant Rathalos, I need to take you back 2 decades to 2004, when the first Monster Hunter released in Japan on the PS2. From the very beginning, this series was meant to be enjoyed in co-op and online play, capitalizing on the rising popularity of internet cafe culture at the time. Monster Hunter is an action game all about dominating the food chain, but to do this productively and get the most out of your adventure, you need a little help from your friends. Co-op play is the core of what makes Monster Hunter games. Taking down a colossal beast alone is doable, but just as a pride of lionesses working together to exhaust and slay their prey, the co-op multiplayer hunt has always produced the best gameplay loop with lots of rewards to be found, and consequently was a huge part of Monster Hunter's appeal. Monster Hunter has always been a difficult game, or at least has a difficult learning curve, and a part of the reason I first struggled to get into the series was because I would try and take on hunts solo. Although the series has gradually made solo play more viable, with your Palico companion joining your hunt as fighters in 2008's Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. The core of the series is collaboration and shared triumph. You need to work together to take down these powerful, deadly beasts. There's just nothing else in gaming quite like getting together with your hunting buddies, deciding what you're going to target, having a slap-up meal together before heading off to the hunting grounds. More hunters means you'll find monsters quicker, and when you do that, it has 4 different targets to aim at. Coordinating attacks in wilds are more important than ever, with teams able to target and break specific parts of monsters. And as the difficulty ramps up, helping everyone out with a high-level healing item becomes almost essential. Certain weapons like the hunting horn are entirely built around making your whole team stronger. At the end of a successful hunt, you all pillage the monster, gathering precious materials, and then, if you're anything like our crews, doing a silly dance and emotes in time before the mission ends. And then it's back to the hub, choose another shared target, have another delicious meal, and do it all again. So you hack up a few monsters with friends, right? No big deal. But for a game to keep you hooked, it needs to give you a sense of progression, that feeling of forward progress that most games center on in one way or another. As you progress, the armor and weapons you craft from materials gained from previous hunts are a visual trophy to your past success. You can tell a lot of someone from what they wear. But in Monster Hunter, you can see the hours they put in and the hunts they've survived just so they can craft those boss-looking gauntlets they're wearing. That core loop of hunt hub has been in Monster Hunter from the start, but over the 2 decades, Capcom has honed and further interlinked all the game systems. Monster Hunter World went to great lengths to streamline the busy work and let you get straight into the good stuff. This seems to be even more refined in Monster Hunter Wilds. You no longer have to return after every hunt. The classic, gathering your friends, eat a meal, go out and hunt a monster and go back to the hub and start again, has now been streamlined to let you hunt multiple monsters in succession if you feel like it, which I think is an improvement from the previous pattern. Every hunter will soon have a strategy where as you hunt, resources are being produced and sought on your behalf, and as you manage your little fiefdom, the hunts are ramping up to take full advantage. With all those monsters to hunt, picking the right instrument of death has always been important. The original game gave players the choice of 6 different weapons, but over the years the arsenal has expanded to 14, each with their own upgrade and variants. Great sword, dual blades, hammers, lance, sword and shield, insect glaive, bow, The armory in Monster Hunter is now vast, so vast in fact that Monster Hunter Wilds adds a secondary weapon slot. But pick carefully, hunters, as your choice of weapon will drastically change your playstyle. Equipping the dual blades, a weapon specifically designed for rapid attacks, are for the players who aren't scared to get up close and personal with the monsters they hunt. The dual blades means your hunter is unable to block, evading and boosting the damage of your attacks in demon mode. Combos allowing you to slash and switch between demon and archdemon mode. While the hammer is a blunt weapon with destructive power, getting those big damage numbers in. With good mobility, as seen with your spinning bludgeon, swinging your hammer like you're the god of thunder for himself. Weapons are one of the biggest elements that give Monster Hunter true longevity, allowing you to switch up your fighting style depending on the target and take on a fresh approach to any tough challenges. As the game ramps up, traits like elemental damage or the type of damage a weapon inflicts, for example the piercing damage of a lance versus the blunt force of a hammer, can be key to giving you the edge over the nastier monsters. If you're fighting some sort of fire-breathing dragon, it's a good idea to bring a water-infused weapon. Sometimes you'll find yourself going on hunts, gathering materials to build a specific weapon variant for a monster that just needs that extra special beating. And the satisfaction of turning up with the perfect counter is magical. Monster Hunter's essence and its greatest strengths are its tense, desperate, and some would even say tragic fights with beautiful beasts that can have you battling anywhere from 30 to 50 minutes. Look, this game is not for the weak-hearted. The monster's visual designs, behavior, and animation communicate the grand scale of these creatures, the lords of all they survey in nature, until we come along. Once you discover the large monster in the wild and attack it, the hunt begins. Each monster has unique traits and attacks, and it's important for the player to observe their behavior carefully and know when to maintain a safe distance. It doesn't matter how tanky your shield is. If something the size of a house is in rage, best just to get out the way. One thing I'm particularly looking forward to in Monster Hunter Wilds is focus mode and wound system. You have always been able to break a monster's parts to weaken a monster's attack, open up vulnerable areas, and get some extra resources. In Wilds, in addition to breaking parts, you can now open wounds on monsters by damaging the same area repeatedly. Wounds go hand in hand with focus mode, which lets you aim your attacks with a reticle using the left trigger. A nice inclusion for players who might otherwise struggle with their attack positioning during fights. When a focus strike hits a wound, you've opened up a monster to perform a finisher attack for a hefty chunk of damage and bonus monster material. In Monster Hunter Wilds, the weather is also a bigger factor than ever, called inclemencies. A well-planned hunt can be turned upside down by a sudden sandstorm, ruining your visibility. Quite important when a Diablos is charging, but equally if you're fighting a monster weak against lightning and suddenly thunder rumbles, game on. Monster Hunter has had an impressive evolution since its 2004 release, building on its core pillars of co-op gameplay, player progression, weapons influencing playstyles, and memorable monsters. From a modest beginning to a juggernaut in Japan to Capcom's best-selling game. And now we can't wait to get stuck into Monster Hunter Wilds, releasing later this month. But I want to know, how excited are you for the release of Monster Hunter Wilds, and when did your Monster Hunter journey start? And most importantly, what's your go-to weapon? I'm Midas. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe to PC Gamer for more deep dives on games that change the landscape of gaming.